welcome back. I'm Tedward, and thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving this 2012 Aston Martin Vantage S Roadster. And it's a beautiful day out here in New England. I think we've got to do some top-down motoring with this gorgeous 4.7 liter naturally aspirated V8. Yes, let's get in and put the top down. When we open the door, we're greeted with this gorgeous leather. Oh my goodness, I love Aston Martin for always making everything so decadent. We'll get our ECU, emotional control unit, into the ignition. And then let's go ahead and put this roof down. And we're greeted with a roof movement complete message on the screen. Let's start her up. Oh, it comes to life with a bit of a pop. This is one of my favorite engines, this 4.7 liter V8. It sounds incredible. It's got 430 horsepower, and this being the S variant, we've got a little more poke with changes to the intake and exhaust and bigger brakes to stop this thing in a hurry. I don't think we need to waste too much time with a walk around because you know what? It's nice to go out for a nice leisurely drive in our potent, barky British Roadster. This one is equipped with paddle shifters, and that is mated to a 7-speed Graziano transmission in the back. It's a single clutch. We're going to talk about that on our drive. And hopefully we don't need to use our Aston Martin supplied pen in the dashboard for any speeding tickets. Our seat controls are right here, and then our transmission controls up here, right front and center on the dashboard. We'll put our parking brake down. It's engaged right now, but first we pull up, button, and down, and you're off. Let's pop it into sport mode. I'm going to leave it in drive, and we're just going to go for it. Sounds absolutely barbaric. I love this engine, and with the top down you hear every bit of it. Now don't be alarmed, that center speedo digital is currently in kilometers per hour, so you know, relax, we're not going that fast. So you may notice some delays in those shifts. They were more reminiscent of a BMW SMG that you'd find in E46 M3 than they are of, say, an Aventador. But in sport mode, it does tighten it up just a little bit, and if you're using the paddles, it allows you to have just enough control over it to enjoy. What a thing! That's the stuff! Make sure he's going right before we cut over. All right, we're good to go. Oh God, I love this engine. With the top down and the windows up, there's very little wind buffeting, so this is really nice if you were to use it as a commuter or if you were going to do some grand touring. You know, it's not oppressive being inside at highway speeds. That can be a pain in cars like the 991 Targa. The 991 Targa, you've got to, when that roof is down, you've got to move those windows down just a little bit to make sure that it's not blasting your ears with the buffeting noises. This is quite well thought out. So let's jump off, find some back roads, and as we're coming down this off-ramp, I want to show you how nice and crisp the downshifts are. The upshifts may have that delay, but the downshifts, ooh, just so crisp. In order to get a smooth upshift, they recommend you curl your toes while you're shifting. While it may sound sacrilegious, I think I may prefer this single clutch sequential automated manual gearbox over an actual manual from Aston Martin. And that's not because I don't love the feel of a manual gearbox from Aston Martin. I think Aston Martin just always has odd throttle mapping that seems a little luxurious, and I find it that I have to think very hard driving a manual Aston Martin to get the timing right, to get my rev matching down just so. And I think if I owned the car, I'd be fine, or if I could find a tuner to adjust that throttle mapping for me. But you know what? When you're driving this, although the gearbox may be a little slow and feel antiquated, I think it now just adds to the character. In 2012, I could see driving this back-to-back with some competitors and thinking, oh, I don't think so. But now, as a used car at a reasonable price, I do think that this is an enjoyable toy. And you're not going for outright speed. In fact, I'm in this car and I'm not thinking about 0 to 60 times, although it is under 5 seconds. And I'm not thinking about curb weight or braking distances unless I'm following too closely to traffic ahead of me. But no, this is not my car that I'm gonna go take out to the racetrack. This is my enjoy the elements. It's a beautiful day. Let's put the top down. Let's listen to a gorgeous engine. Driving dynamics are just stellar. I mean, it's not too stiff, but it's definitely a rigid chassis. The steering feel is ever present, and I'm never questioning what is going on with this front axle. And it's a good thing I have already done all my photos, because water is the enemy of a good photo shoot. Yikes. That feeling when you just wash your car and then you have to drive through a lake, that's not great. The limited slip diff gives you traction at all times. We've got 285 section tires on the rear, and it is noticeable that you've got the grip. Now, we're not overpowered. It's about 360 pound-feet of torque. That's not outrageous. Well, let's hope they're not going to drop any trees on my head here. That's not what I want to do with my convertible Aston Martin. And I think this emerald green paint is just so gorgeous on the car. I like that people took some chances on Aston Martins. They weren't all black, they weren't all silver, although most of them were. But those who really understood how to spec a car really had their plates full when they were looking at getting an Aston Martin, because we think of Porsche as kind of the ultimate spec car, Ferrari sometimes as well. But Aston Martin had a lot of options on different types of wood, different types of paints, different types of leather, and application of leather. So if you notice up front, we've got black leather, then we've got this tan, then down on the ground, we have this gorgeous green carpeting. On paper, that sounds like quite an eclectic mix, but it really all comes together. And those who understood how to put together a beautiful car could do really well for themselves with an Aston Martin specification book. Going to encourage you to go find some nice roads where you can really listen to it open up. I mean, you know, my next car, I would really love to own a convertible. I don't know what I want. Problem is, the only thing I could probably afford as a convertible is a Miata or maybe an S2000, which has really gone up in value now. But I love the idea of having this as sort of a secondary car to be able to go out and enjoy the elements. It's not even about speeding either. Let's go up here. The leather-wrapped aluminum paddles, column mounted, of course, because this is kind of a supercar. I think, like, you know, true supercars always want to have those column mounted paddles, but it's nice because they're always in the right place. They're the right size. They're not obnoxious. They're not these giant things, because I feel like the Aston Martin is all about being a bit subdued with a little bit of shoutiness from an engine, and they do this just so well. I feel like modern sports cars today are a little too afraid to go soft. They're not compliant. Everything is so rigid and brutal. Unless, of course, you're talking about, say, a McLaren 720S, which has a pretty trick suspension. But for the most part, anytime you get in a sports car, they're so rigid to make sure that you know it's a sports car that they're not that fun to drive. But the Astons of this generation, while they were certainly rigid, they were also compliant, which meant you could drive it around a road. Does it mean you still feel everything on the road? Absolutely. But it doesn't jar you. It doesn't ruin the experience by being too harsh. While I do have quite a bit of power at my foot, I'm not encouraged to use it in an offensive way all the time. Some sports cars, the only joy you derive from driving them is by breaking the law. I don't really feel that way in this car. I feel like I'm just motoring, and motoring is good. I've driven quite a few variants of this car, and my favorite up until now is probably the GTS. It's really not that different of a car, the GTS, but it has just enough special tricks up its sleeve, especially with a beefy manual transmission, to make it entertaining and to really express and exploit this engine. But you know, maybe it's just the mood, maybe it's just the weather, but I do feel like top down is the way to go. I would encourage everyone to go out and get some drive therapy with the top down, because, you know, with the top down, I find that I'm less of a speed racer. Although, sure, you want to wind it out and enjoy the sound of it. I think you enjoy driving more when you're more exposed to the world. And that's a weird thing. Maybe traffic isn't so bad when you have the top down. It's okay to drive 40 miles per hour. The Aston Martin is certainly a gentleman's car. I think the vibe of pulling up in an Aston Martin differs greatly from pulling up in, say, a Subaru WRX STI. Although it's certainly just as shouty. And it's amazing how a splash of style can go a long way in making sure that people give you the nod and a wave rather than the finger. So there you have it, the 2012 Aston Martin Vantage Roadster. Still good today. Probably better than it was when it came out. I think this aged really well. It's a gorgeous interior, beautiful style, love the ducktail. And you know what? A torque tube to a rear-mounted single-clutch transmission just adds character. Might have been seen as a performance flaw when it arrived, but you know what? Today, it's just cool. And it just proves that top-down motoring is the answer to all your problems. So let's finish off the drive. We'll grab an ice cream and be back on our way. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. And of course, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts for the opportunity to drive yet another dream car of mine. I'll see you in the next one.